we're going to do a slave cylinder pressure line replacement on the car today. As you can see, this is a 2002 Subaru WRX. I actually looked for another videos on YouTube to see how to do this, and I couldn't find one. There's just some other random dude doing another job, but it's not a turbo model. As you can see, this is a turbo model. So basically, this is what we gotta do. You gotta remove the intercooler. In order to remove the intercooler, you have to take your blow-off valve. Of course, the bolts that hold the intercooler, which are here and here. Yep, right here. And then you have to loosen up your pressure hose that goes here from the turbo to the intercooler, and the pressure hose that goes from the intercooler to the throttle body. In order to do that, you have to get this out of the way. I mean, technically it's a simple job. It's just, you know, it's long and tedious, because taking the intercooler out is a pain in the butt. Alright, so let's get to it. As you can see, I got the blow-off valve is loose. Now all the intercooler bolts are off. These little pipes right here are loose. I forgot to mention, these are 12mm bolts that hold this guy right here. This guy's right here. This one, and that one are 10mm, 12mm, and 12mm. Okay, I got this hose. It's loose already. Just have to work with it a little bit. Got the turbo inlet outlet loose already too. So now this is the most pain in the butt part, which is wiggle the intercooler there. Being very careful not to damage anything. Alright, I'm gonna fast forward through this. You can see I got the intercooler off. And for those of you who are trying to replace the slave cylinder, that's your culprit right here. Okay? So basically the first thing you have to do is you have to deal with let me see if I can get it a little better. That bolt right under there, that's a banjo bolt style. Okay, it is a 12mm as well, I believe. In my case, I actually replaced this already, and now I'm replacing this line because it's leaking and I'm losing my pressure. So basically what I gotta do is I gotta loosen up the hard line from here and then get this little clip out. Since this is a northern car, I have actually been soaking this with DW40 for the past week almost, so I don't have any issues. Yeah, and that's basically what we gotta do. When you change your slave cylinder, basically what you gotta do is loosen up your line first, and then second, you got these two bolts right here that I believe are 15 or 17mm. I'm really not sure. Once that is off, it should come up no problem. Once I'm putting the new line, I'll kind of give you a rundown how to bleed the system. Hope it works for you guys. Alrighty. Got the metal line off the pressure line, okay, which was a pain in the ass. Okay, now I'm gonna remove the banjo bolt off the slave cylinder, and there's something I need to show you. See, there's this metal copper washers that are super important. You can't lose them, because if you lose this, then your slave cylinder basically is not gonna work. And you should have two. You have one here on top, and there's another one at the bottom. As you can see, you got these two. So put them in a safe location, because And the bolt is super important. This was my ish. As you can see, it's wet all over the place. It was leaking. Alright, stop. So this is my new line. It's an original Subaru part. Bought it at the dealership for about 30 bucks. Don't go with Chinese stuff, seriously. I mean, this car is what, 15, 18 years old, and I just started having problems with the pressure line. Get original parts, it's just way better. Okay, to install this thing, always bolt in this end first to the slave cylinder, okay, with your banjo bolt that I got right there. And once it's secured, you have to, I think it's 16.6 pounds of torque according to the service manual. Then maneuver your hose into this little hole right here, like this end, so you don't have to, you know, have it bent in awkward positions, which is basically the reason I think this hose started failing. Also remember, this is my personal opinion. A lot of people may not agree. Oh, dang it. Well, I had Teflon tape right there. I'm gonna put a couple, you know, wraps around the bolt right here just to avoid leakage. And that's what I'm about to do. All right. As you can see, the new pressure hose is on. You can see I did put a little bit of Teflon over here, and I worked the hose in a way that it wasn't just bent in an awkward way. This actually is the most natural way. If you were replacing the slave cylinder, of course you have to install the slave cylinder first. You put your push pin in first, and this is your clutch fork. Make sure that it's in there. A lot of people bleed the system with this off and with C-clamps. You put the slave cylinder in the C-clamps, and you start pumping your brake, your clutch, and when the slave cylinder has enough pressure to just pop out of there, you install it and start working it with a little buddy to help you flush the system. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna go. I got a big jug of DOT 3 brake fluid, so I'm just gonna bleed it until it gets some pressure. All right. As you can see, the job is finished. Basically what I did is I just reversed everything I told you first. The hardest part of this job is actually putting the intercooler in and out, just because you have to wiggle those two hoses to get them in and out. This being the second time I do it, it's actually a lot easier. When you're bolting back the blow-off valve, these two bolts and these 10mm bolts, just be very careful because you're bolting into aluminum, and aluminum is, cracks really easy. So if you don't have the factory torque specs for those bolts, just use some common sense. Don't kill them. If you don't know how to bleed a brake or a clutch system, you probably shouldn't be doing this. But basically what you need to do is you have to have a helper that can help you with the purge valve in the slave cylinder, and then the other person is gonna press and depress the clutch. With this, especially this kind of vehicles, you have to start with your hand, pushing it in and out until it goes all the way in, until it actually hits the firewall. And you just keep going, and eventually the clutch starts getting pressure. If it gets pressure one time, don't stop there, because I can guarantee you still have air in the line. That's basically what we're doing. We're trying to get the air out of the line. You keep it pressed, and the person handling the purge valve has to loosen the bolt, and let the fluid come out. Even if it comes in a solid stream, that doesn't mean squat, especially with this type of vehicles. I don't know why the Subarus are so freaking hard to bleed. It's just the way it is. Do it about five times. It's actually a very good thing to do because it flushes the old fluid that you had in your system. But you know, you repeat that 5-6 times. Even if every time you do it, you know, you start punching it gets actually to a point that you can't do it with your hand anymore. You have to do it with your feet, and you keep pressing with your foot, like I said, about 6 times. And at the 6th time, just make sure you have enough brake fluid, DOT brake fluid in your clutch master cylinder, because if you run out, you have to do the whole thing over again. And that's what it is. So 2002-2006 WRX Impreza with a turbo, how to change your slave cylinder, pressure line, and how to purge the system. If you like the video, or if you have any questions, just give it a thumbs up and ask questions in the comments. Leave any negative comments on the outside. I really don't care about your negativity or whatever. And I know I have an accent, so it's whatever. Okay, peace.